Hey guys, it's Kenny here from the Fantasy Golf Degenerates and the FantasyFanatics.com. Back at it again for my cash game cornerstones for the Honda Classic. Now, before we get into this week, let's recap my picks from the Genesis Open last week at Riviera. Finally got the 3 of 4 monkey off my back. Got all 4 through the cut. My 4 picks last week were Dustin Johnson, Sergio Garcia, Justin Rose, and Brendan Steele. DJ had a masterful performance. He ran away with the competition to become the new #1 player in the world. Sergio made the cut, didn't finish too highly, as he shot -2 for the tournament to finish in 49th place. Justin Rose played well, shooting -11 for the tourney, finishing in 4th, and Brendan Steele shot -3 and finished in 39th. All 4 of these golfers were extremely popular, with ownership levels north of 50% in most double-ups and 50-50s. My cash lineup itself was filled with these 4 guys, J.B. Holmes and Adam Hadwin. And that exact lineup was duplicated over 600 times in the $5 double-up last week. It still crushed, won all across the board. So once again, don't pay too much attention to ownership in cash games. If you like a golfer, use them. Now that strategy definitely changes a bit for GPPs, but for cash, my advice is to play who you want and don't worry about ownership. Now let's move on to this week as golfers head to Palm Beach, Florida for the Honda Classic at PGA Nationals Champions Course. This course is hard. It's usually always one of the 5 to 10 most difficult courses the pros play on every year. It's best known for the incredibly difficult 3-hole stretch known as the Bear Trap, which are holes 15, 16, and 17. Water, thick rough, huge bunkers on the fairways and around the greens, skinny greens. They're everywhere on this course, and they make it even more difficult. There is usually a wind factor at this event where the course averages around 10 to 20 mile per hour winds on a daily basis. There's a ton of water, like I said, on this course, and it seems to be a magnet for golf balls throughout the years. This tournament came to PGA National in 2007, and since that time, over 1,000 golf balls have met their watery doom in this tournament during tournament play. My 2 big stats this week I'm looking for are going to be strokes gained tee to green and strokes gained approach. This is definitely a less than driver course, so to me, it feels like a second shot course. There's a few more stats I'm looking at this week, and you can go ahead and find them on my expert model on the FantasyFanatics.com. This week on the spreadsheet, I'll be weighing in my key stats at 55%, current form at 25%, and course history at 20%. Now, let's move on to the picks. First up, it's going to be a repeat from last week. It's Sergio Garcia at $10,900. Now, I think Adam Scott is viable for cash games in this range, but I'm going to take the discount with Sergio because DraftKings got the pricing right this week, and there isn't any eye-opening value plays for cash in the $6K range. Sergio was in contention here last year, finishing in 2nd, and he's made all 6 of his cuts at PGA National in his career with 2 top 10s in his last 3 tries. He hasn't played enough this year to have reliable stats for the course, but if you look at his stats from last year, which you can do on the FantasyFanatics.com spreadsheet, he finished inside the top 25 in strokes gained approach, strokes gained tee to green, sand save percentage, birdie or better percentage, and greens in regulation. He likes putting on Bermuda, and I think he can contend again this week. Next up, it's going to be Paul Casey at $8,700. Casey has been consistent recently, making 13 of his last 14 cuts on tour. He's had success at this course, making 4 or 5 cuts with 3 top 12s and 2 top 5s. He's good from tee to green, plays par 4s well, and has good proximity stats from 175 to 200 yards. Nearly 30% of all approach shots are going to be from this range, so it might be something to look at while you're doing your research this week. He's also very good from the rough, which can be helpful since less than 60% of all tee shots land on these fairways. He struggled slightly off the tee last week, losing a couple of strokes to the field, but he'll be hitting less than driver a bunch, so hopefully that number goes up a little bit. He did gain nearly 2.5 strokes on the field on his approach shots last week, which bodes well for this tournament. Next up, it's going to be another repeat. It's Brendan Steele at $8,100. He's been a part of my cash game Cornerstones a lot this year. Just sort of like if you watched me when I did this last year for another site, I had Matt Kuchar basically on every week. Brendan Steele has sort of become that golfer, maybe even with a little bit more upside. He's made his last 12 cuts on tour, and his worst finish so far this year was last week, and he still finished inside the top 40. He's made all 6 of his cuts at PGA National, and I like the fact that he basically improved on his finishes as the years went on. In the last 2 years, he has 2 top 15s. When it comes to stats, he is far and away my number 1 ranked golfer this week. He's 8th in strokes gained approach, 9th in strokes gained tee the green, 15th in par 4 scoring, 16th in proximity from 175 to 200 yards, 23rd in birdie or better percentage, and 8th in sand save percentage. Now, I don't normally look at sand save percentage, but I am this week because of the numerous bunkers and the fact that a lot of greens have water on one side and large bunkers on the other side. No one wants to get wet, so there will be some overcompensation, and the greenside bunkers are going to get a lot of work this week. I'll be riding the Brendan Steele train until he gives me a reason not to, especially in cash. My final pick, it's going to be Kevin Kisner at $7,700. Kisner has stated in interviews that he dislikes the West Coast swing because of the bumpy POA greens. Well, that didn't seem to matter as he had 2 top 25s in California with a top 10 at Pebble Beach. This shows me that he's striking the ball well. The stats agree as he's 2nd in strokes gained tee to green and 2nd in strokes gained approach for the year so far. I also like Kisner because he's become somewhat of a cut day and Sunday warrior. In his last 3 tournaments, he has shot in the 60s in every second round and every final round he has played. He's coming back to more comfortable putting surfaces, and even though his course history isn't the best, I mean, I think he's made a couple of cuts. He hasn't missed a cut here, but nothing inside the top 50. I still like him a lot this week in both cash and GPPs. All right, so to recap, my picks this week are going to be Sergio Garcia at $10,900, Paul Casey at $8,700, Brendan Steele at $8,100, and Kevin Kisner at $7,700. All right, that's it for me this week. Make sure you check out the GPP video by Brad Messersmith, the Euro video by iPod Todd, and all the other great tools that thefantasyfanatics.com has to offer. Good luck, and let's both win some money this week.